Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mindfulness for Creatives Part 1, The Breath. My name is Susana Pereda-Swap. I'm the founder and executive director of Vanguard Culture, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to advancing San Diego's creative industry workforce. This workshop is part of our Forum Professional Development Series, which presents a variety of programs aimed to give creatives the tools and resources to make a living doing what they love. For more information, please visit vanguardculture.org. Thank you for supporting our work. We are so honored to be partnering with mindfulness teacher Wilda Wong on this three-part series specifically geared toward creative professionals. Now, we all know that the last few years of COVID have been especially challenging for the creative community. Humanity turned to the arts for comfort and solace, and artists from around the globe stepped up to the challenge. But today, this moment is for you, to take care of you. And with that, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Wilda Wong. Wilda is professionally trained and qualified to teach mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, through the UCSD Center for Mindfulness-Based Professional Training Institute. She first encountered MBSR in 2015 and credits mindfulness for helping her cultivate a more holistic understanding of her mind, body, and emotions, as well as deeper empathy, compassion, and gratitude to herself and others. She can be found on Instagram at momenttomoment.co. Thank you so much for being here, Wilda. I will pass the torch to you, and thank you so much for leading us in this practice today.
Thank you so much for having me, Susana, and Vanguard Culture. It's an honor to be here as well. So at this moment, I would like to invite you all to find a supportive and comfortable posture. As I was sharing a little bit earlier, whether that's seated where you are, or if you would like to move to the floor on a cushion. If you are moving to the floor, perhaps propping up your buttocks with a cushion or a blanket, just so that your hips are higher than your knees. And we will just arrive in this brand new moment. And if you feel comfortable, feel free to close your eyes or lower your gaze. And let's take a couple of deep breaths together. And then gently allowing your breath to return to its regular rhythm. Just breathing at your own pace without trying to change anything. So I like to open my classes with an arrival sit. This is an opportunity to settle into our bodies in this moment and allowing ourselves to perhaps transition from the earlier busyness of the day coming into this brand new moment. And perhaps noticing if there's anything arising for you in this moment. Perhaps noticing any physical sensations in your body, any thoughts that are coming through, any emotions that are arising for you. And again, the invitation is to simply notice without trying to change anything or judging them in any way. And if you don't notice anything arising for you, then noticing that's okay too. And if it feels appropriate for you in this moment, perhaps bringing in gratitude for showing up, for carving out this time and space for yourself. I'm certainly grateful for you for being here. And then when you're ready, slowly wiggle your fingers and toes, perhaps doing some gentle neck rolls. In one direction, and then finding gentle neck rolls in the other direction. Then gently fluttering the eyes open if they aren't already. Welcome, everyone. So for this series of workshops called Mindfulness for Creatives, I would love to keep things pretty interactive and engaging. And how you engage and how much you participate is up to you. I would love if you don't mind having your cameras on. That helps me kind of engage with you all as a group. However, of course, things come up, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's perfectly fine as well. But in this moment, I'm curious to hear from any of you who wants to share just a 1 or 2 word check-in. How are you feeling in this moment? Were there any emotions or thoughts, any physical sensations that came up for you that you noticed? Yes, Dorothy.
Yeah, I feel very relaxed, getting
Mm.
into that. But I do feel, the physical pounding of my nervous system, the pulsing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
sharing. Anyone else? 1 word, 2 words? What came up for you? You're also welcome to drop them in the chat if you don't want to unmute.
I noticed where I did have some tension and found the calm too. That was nice.
Noticing tension and calm. Okay, thank you for sharing, Shelley. Okay, so for this next segment, just wanted to offer up a very basic working definition of mindfulness. This word is used a lot. There's a whole industry devoted to it, and the whole wellness industry is huge. I like to offer up my own working definition of it so that we kind of move through these workshops together, perhaps with some of these concepts in mind that may be helpful, at least in the mindfulness-based stress reduction context, in the MBSR context. Very simply, mindfulness can be described as moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness. So a lot of it is really simply about noticing what is arising. Noticing your emotions, whether you're feeling sadness, anger, joy, happiness, any of the range of emotions that we can feel. And in an MBSR class, I'm in the middle of teaching an 8-week course right now. We just completed class 4, entering class 5 this week. Facilitators and participants practice together. And so facilitators might share mindfulness practices that can help us uncover a lot of the paths to find the internal calm and peace, to help us notice when we are feeling very intense emotions or overwhelmed, and finding the tools within to encounter them. So that's the kind of mindfulness-based stress reduction, that's the stress reduction piece, is having those tools within us so that we can respond to stressors around us and within us, and kind of turn those reactions into responses, putting a little bit of a pause between what we call stressors and how we respond to a situation. And a lot of MBSR classes, or the mindfulness classes that I teach, we talk about noticing patterns and interrupting the autopilot. So what's autopilot? A lot of times autopilot might be, you know, we kind of do things without thinking about it, right? Like brushing our teeth. We just pick up the toothbrush and we brush our teeth. We're not really thinking about brushing our teeth. Or a lot of times we turn on the shower, or, you know, we drive to work on our commute. We don't really think about the commute very much. And autopilot is really important in helping us move through life on a daily basis. A lot of times, a lot of things that we do shouldn't require a lot of deep thinking. We should just, like, we know it like the back of our hand. We can do it with our eyes closed, kind of thing. However, sometimes when we get too deeply into autopilot and we move through our days without really noticing what is happening, things start to kind of blur together, and, you know, we're not really noticing our emotions or our thoughts very often. We kind of maybe brush things under the carpet, and we might just have things kind of build up and just seethe beneath the surface. And I can share my own personal story of, before taking MBSR, I reacted in a very different way to stressors. I have actually yelled at complete strangers in the street in public. I'm not proud of that. And I kind of think back on that and just marvel at, who was that? Like, why? That was causing so much harm, not only to other people, the people that I was yelling at, but I was really causing myself a lot of harm by harboring a lot of that anger, just seething beneath the surface. And since taking MBSR, I've been able to recall those tools. And I do think all of us have the tools within us. So it's about cultivating them, and it's about the practice. That's why a lot of meditation practice is called the practice. It's, you just keep practicing. So that's a quick little spiel on mindfulness, the way that I understand and teach it in MBSR. I'm curious if there are any questions or comments that might be arising right now. You're welcome to drop them in the chat, or just unmute yourself if you like, before we move on to the next segment. Okay, feel good? Okay, so for this segment, I would love for you to get on your feet if you're able to do so, and join me in some mindful movements. This will just be about 10 to 15 minutes of movement. I do think creativity is, you know, really cultivated when we can move our bodies. So if you have a space where you are, if you need to move to a space where you have some room to move, and you don't need to look at me at all, but I'll keep my camera on anyway. And just when you have a space where you feel supported by the earth beneath you, perhaps placing your feet kind of hip distance apart, and what is sometimes referred to as mountain pose in yoga practice. And perhaps closing the eyes for just a couple of breaths. Just taking some deep breaths here. And feeling the earth support your feet, supporting your weight in this moment. And then when you're ready, gently fluttering the eyes open. And let's do some gentle shoulder rolls together. So shrugging your shoulders up towards the ears and then letting them fall away. And it doesn't matter which direction you start them in, but simply doing some gentle shoulder rolls here. And then reversing the direction of your shoulder rolls. And just finding stillness here when you're ready. And then turning your head to one side. And again, it doesn't matter which side you start with, just turning your head to one side. And then turning your head to the other side. And just keep moving at your own pace. And whatever pace you are moving your head, just simply noticing the pace that you're at right now. There's no right or wrong. Just noticing the pacing. And then coming back to center. And then perhaps shifting your weights from one foot to the other. And finding a slight bend in the knees. Just doing a little bounce like that. If that is comfortable and accessible to you. And then we'll put our feet a little bit wider than hip width distance. And let's find a way to drop our torsos down and then picking it back up. So kind of, if you can see me, dropping our hands towards the floor and then picking them back up, pointing them towards the sky. And just dropping your upper body along with those arms, grazing the earth, and then coming back up with your arms pointed towards you, the sky, and again, going at your own pace. And in this movement, you could even imagine that you're really bringing the skies, the cosmos with the earth into your body. Just getting some blood going here. And again, noticing the pace in which you're doing this. And there's no right or wrong. And then slowly finding stillness once more. And with our feet, again, still slightly wider than hip width distance apart, we can perhaps start to shift our weight from one side to the other, lifting our left foot when we turn to the right, or lifting our right foot when we turn to the left. Kind of twisting our body in this gentle twist movement. And you can even allow your arms and palms to hit the sides of your body if that feels good for you. Just giving yourself a slight massage. And again, you're welcome to find your own pace doing this. And you can even speed up or slow down, whatever feels good for you in this moment. And slowly finding stillness once more. And with our feet hip width distance, one more time in mountain, just taking stock here of how your body is feeling in this moment. And if there are any movements that might feel good for you that we haven't practiced together, take the next couple of moments to do that, whatever that is. Maybe for you might be lifting your head towards the back and exposing your throat here towards the sky. And then finding the reverse. Or maybe raising your arms up towards the sky and finding a slight stretch here. Whatever it is that feels good for you. Just take a couple of moments to listen to your body and see what is calling for you to do. And you certainly don't have to remain standing. You can find a seat on the floor and do some stretches or some supine twists if you like. The important thing is about listening to your body and finding what feels good. And then taking your time, when you're ready, just moving back towards your seats. Get a drink of water. And as you find your seats, just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. How did the movement show up for you in your body? Did you notice any tensions? Or perhaps not tension or discomfort, perhaps ease and comfort? Noticing anything there? Any thoughts? Any emotions? Just noticing whatever is coming up for you. I'm seeing the stretches were nice. Thank you for practicing that with me. So for this next exercise, I hope everyone saw the message about coming with a journal or some scratch paper and a writing instrument. If not, feel free to take a moment to have those materials nearby. We're going to practice a breathing meditation together, and we will have a short creative activity based on that as well. So take a moment, feel free to grab a notebook, some paper, a pen, or some markers, whatever you like to write or draw with. Tablets, fancy devices, whatever you want. Okay, so when you're ready, my invitation again is to gently close the eyes once more if you feel comfortable, or lower your gaze. And just allowing ourselves to settle into our bodies in this brand new moment. And if you notice any discomfort in your body or clothing that feels too tight, anything that might call for any adjustment, see if you can bring full intention and mindfulness to making any adjustments. So first, noticing any discomfort or tension, and then intentionally moving to make the adjustment that is needed in this moment. And allowing your body to settle back into itself, feeling supported by whatever surface you are sitting on right now. So this practice is called awareness of the breath, and it's a very common meditative practice in MBSR. And it is exactly what it sounds like. We're bringing awareness to the breath. And breathing is one of those autopilot things that thankfully we don't have to think about in order to do. We just do. It just happens. So in this practice, we're not trying to change our breath. We're simply noticing the breath. So first, my invitation to you is to simply allow yourself to breathe at its normal pace and rhythm, not trying to change anything about your breath right now. But noticing when you are taking an in breath. So as the air enters your nostrils or your mouth, noticing that. Noticing as the air moves through your body down into the lungs. Noticing your chest rising and falling. Perhaps noticing your belly rising and falling as you breathe. And noticing the breath as you exhale, as the air moves through your nostrils or your mouth back outside of your body. So we're really following the breath all the way in and again all the way out. And it's possible that you may notice your breath most vividly in different parts of your body at different times. So the invitation now is to see where you might notice your breath the most vividly in this moment. So perhaps you're feeling the air most vividly in the back of your throat, or perhaps you're feeling it most in your chest. Just take a moment and see where you're noticing it the most in this moment. And see if you can allow your attention to rest in that location of the body for the next couple of breaths. And it's perfectly normal as you are sitting here breathing for your mind to wander. Perhaps you're thinking about how your day went, Maybe something that you forgot to do at work that you now have to do tomorrow. Perhaps you had something happen recently that is replaying itself in your mind. See if you can just notice that happening without judging yourself or without adding a story to it or changing it in this moment. Just noticing it happening. And then the invitation is to see if you can gently guide your attention back to the breath. And if you like, you can place one hand on your chest, perhaps one hand on your belly, or perhaps both hands on your torso, and just really feeling your body as you draw in your breath and as you exhale. Just really feeling connected to your body as you breathe. So now you've had a bit of practice noticing the breath. My invitation now is to gently open the eyes if they're not open, and bring your writing instrument and some paper closer to you. And we'll just hold that. And then when you're ready, feel free to gently close the eyes once more with your pen or writing instrument in your hands. And then as we continue to breathe at our normal pace, put that pen to your paper and start to assign some shapes or lines to your breathing. So perhaps your breath is short and shallower right now, so that might be represented by short little dashes on your paper. If you're drawing in really long, deep breaths, perhaps they might be represented by big circles or long lines or wiggles. Just if you were to assign a shape or some lines to your breath right now, what would that look like? And just keeping those eyes closed while you're breathing and drawing your breath. And you might even go outside the bounds of your paper, and that's okay too. Maybe you're drawing in loops. Maybe your pen never lifts off the paper. Maybe you're drawing dots or little dashes or lines. There are no rules here. Just the invitation is just to try to draw, visualize your breath. And your breath might even change radically from one moment to the next. So how might that transition show up on the paper? And as you're breathing, if you notice any scents that you're picking up, feel free to draw that too. How might you draw that on a piece of paper? Right now I'm smelling a lavender candle near me, and it smells really good. So how might I draw that fragrance? Perhaps noticing how your body is moving with the breath, that rising and falling of the chest, perhaps the nostrils flaring, perhaps the belly moving. So how might you draw that? How do you draw the shapes of your breathing, the physical form of your breath? So when you're ready, you can take a pause with the drawing and open your eyes and perhaps notice what you have on your paper. It's kind of fun. I came up with something like this. My pen never lifted off the piece of paper. I just kind of, yeah, look at that. Wow. Yeah. So many distinct, so many distinct shapes. Oh, look at that. Very interesting.
Scientific.
Yeah, how cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's neat. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing. So this is just a very easy kind of quick exercise where you can literally doodle the breath or draw the breath with your eyes closed. You never know what's going to come out of it. And at this time, I would love for you to either flip over that page or find a new piece of paper. And now the invitation is take the same writing instrument or a different writing instrument, whatever you want. And I would love for you to try holding your writing instrument in your non-dominant hands. So just interrupting the autopilot even a little bit more. If you were writing with your dominant hands or drawing with your dominant hands, see if you can switch to your non-dominant hands. And the invitation is very similar. So if you want to close your eyes and start breathing and just start letting your non-dominant hand start drawing what comes to you. And I'm not going to give any more guided instructions just because we've practiced this with our dominant hand, and I'll just let you draw in silence. And when you're ready, fluttering the eyes open. And take a look at your paper. I see some smiles. This is what I came up with my non-dominant hand. Oh yeah, fun. Ooh, wow, look at that. Wow. Yeah, so interesting. Thanks for doing that. I'm curious, in this last exercise, is there anything that came up for you in terms of noticing any thoughts or emotions or physical sensations? What did you notice?
My dominant hand seems to be more creative than my left
Oh,
hand.
can you share more about that? What do you mean when you say more creative?
Well, I don't know how it happened, but my left hand is like almost exactly identical on both sides.
Oh, wow.
And my
Yeah.
right hand had more movement and diversity.
So perhaps
I
more
don't know what
different
that is.
shapes in your drawing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else notice it? Yes, Thais.
It's interesting because I had the total opposite. I felt like so much more freedom in my non-dominant hand. And I don't know if it's just because it was the second time doing the exercise, but I was just like, you know, it was even taking over my body a little bit. So it was like very free feeling compared to I was thinking a lot more with my dominant hand. I think so.
Thinking, okay. Can
But
you
it's
share more?
interesting to hear that you had the other kind of extreme.
Yeah, and Thais, can you say more about your body or taking over your body? What does that mean? What did that look like for you?
I just let myself get into it with my whole body, not just my hand, kind of. So yeah, it was nice.
Almost like a dance.
Yeah.
I noticed I was hearing more with my non-dominant hand. I can hear the frogs. I can hear the frogs outside, where like what Thais said is more focused on the pen to the paper with my dominant hand, and less focused on the pen to the paper, even though there is a pattern that matches, but it's more movement with my non-dominant hand.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
That was fun.
And Rox put in the chat, left hand felt freer and covered more space on the paper. And is that your dominant hand, your left hand or your right hand?
I mean, you know this, I'm not sure.
So perhaps a little bit, ambidextrous. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun to experiment with that and see what comes out. It sounds like pretty different results for some of you, noticing, just the difference between one side versus the other side. So I think, what I'm getting out of this is if I'm feeling stuck drawing with one hand, there's always an opportunity to switch to a different side if you have that access. And same thing goes for practicing mindful eating, right? Practicing mindful eating is something that we talk about in mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's one of the first exercises that we actually practice together as a class. And the invitation there is, for participants to perhaps try eating with their non-dominant hand, at least a few bites, just to really notice that motion of bringing something up to your lips. And I think when we're doing things on our non-dominant side, it requires just a little bit more of a pause, like, wait, how do I do this again? It's sort of like learning how to walk as a child. And once we've learned how to walk, we kind of go into that autopilot of, yeah, we know how to walk. We're not thinking about walking. And so part of the creative process, I think, is kind of to bring some of that childlike learning and stumbling back into our lives a little bit. It's like allowing ourselves to be like a little bit awkward, you know? We're just so practiced with one side of our body sometimes, perhaps with the exception of rocks who may be ambidextrous, you know, just inviting that awkwardness and that learning, right? That curiosity back into our daily lives may be a way to sort of counter or encounter some of the blocks that we might feel within our creative selves. I'm curious if there are any other comments or questions at this time. Anything you would like to share about that? Okay. So at this time, I would love for us to invite, I would love for us to either stay seated where we are or to find a supportive lying down posture or standing up posture. We'll just practice a very brief body scan, which is another common practice in mindfulness-based stress reduction. And you can do the seated. Typically, traditionally, it is done lying down, but it certainly doesn't have to, because this will just be a few minutes. And the invitation is, again, closing the eyes and tune into our bodies. So going inward here and just allowing our bodies to settle into our seats or onto our mats, onto the floor, or if you're standing, just noticing the earth supporting your feet. And start by noticing the toes on your feet, perhaps wiggling them a little bit so that you are aware of your toes. And then bring that awareness to the tops of the feet, to your ankles, to your shins, to your knees. Just really noticing not only the ligaments and the muscles, but also the bones, and being aware of the skin covering the knees. And perhaps recognizing that one side might feel different from the other side. And then bring our attention to our thighs, our hip sockets, our entire pelvic region, with our reproductive organs, our organs of elimination. Just being aware of our bodies. And bring that awareness to our belly, to our chest, to our sternum and our shoulders. Noticing any physical sensations in these parts of our bodies. And perhaps even noticing any thoughts, emotions, memories of perhaps injury, just noticing whatever is coming up. And then bring our attention to our biceps and our triceps. And again, perhaps noticing how one side might feel different from the other side. Noticing our elbows, both the outside of our elbows and the inside of our elbows. Bringing an awareness to the forearm in our wrists, and perhaps even taking the opportunity to rotate the wrists here after having done some drawing. Just rotating the wrists in one direction and in the other direction. Noticing the palms of our hands, back of our hands, all the fingers on our hands. And then noticing our lower back, our mid back, our upper back, shoulder blades. Just noticing our spine, aware of our spine. Aware how the spine is connected to our neck, and to our skull. Aware of the top of our skull. Aware of the hair that we have. Aware of the texture of the hair. Aware of our forehead and our eyebrows, our eye sockets, our eyelids, the bridge of our nose. Aware of the nostrils with which we breathe. Aware of our cheekbones, our cheeks, our lips, the tongue. Aware of the chin. Aware of our entire face with which we greet the world. And finally, aware of the skin that we're in, texture of our skin, the color of our skin, the little hairs on our skin. So aware of our entire body. Then when you're ready, gently fluttering the eyes open and find any gentle stretches here that may feel good for you. So I'm gently rolling my neck. Just find any gentle stretches that your body is calling for. So in these last few minutes together, you're welcome to share any comments or ask any questions, anything that we practiced together today.
It made me aware that my breathing changes from moment to moment.
Mm.
So, yeah, it changes.
Mm.
And I thought it was consistent, but it's not.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Some breaths
cool.
are really short
Mm.
and some are really long.
Mm.
In what we've learned today, just today, how might I apply that for stressful situations? If I only have a few moments to recollect my breath in a stressful situation using what I've learned today, how would I do that?
I think you actually named the answer in your question. I mean, I think a lot of it is actually noticing the breath. You know, if there's something very overwhelming in the moment, can you take an opportunity, even if you might look silly, to close the eyes, just to shut out some stimuli, or not, you know, and just breathe. Breathing with yourself, or if you're with someone, perhaps asking your companion, hey, can we breathe together? Why not?
I used to do that with my girls when they were young.
Mm.
Time to do the role reversal.
Yep. The answer is within you. I really, truly think that we have the tools. We just have to practice them.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll drop a worksheet. It's not so much a worksheet as sort of something for you to take home. You're welcome to click on the link, and I think Susanna offered to also email it out afterward. But this is just something, a resource for you that contains some reflective questions for you to think about. It asks things like, when do you think you might be most mindful, like most naturally mindful? When do you think your brain might be foggiest? So I was reading something about how a tired brain might actually invite more creativity. So how might you practice that or invite that into your life? So just different kinds of reflective questions that will go more into the rest of the series for those joining the other sessions. But there are also some quotes on the second page that I appreciate just from a creative perspective. Just nice reminders for ourselves. Yeah. And you're free to go. Yeah.
It was beautiful, Wilda. Thank you so much for leading us, and I hope you all will join us for the body and the being.
Thank you, Wilda.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's a joy to have you here.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
So much.